Hiya folks, welcome to the show. My channel has been growing a lot lately, so you know what that means? It's time to sell out. Maybe I could get Disney to buy me. I mean, after all, I've already sold my soul to them, what's the rest of me at this point? Besides, they always treat their acquired properties with the utmost care and respect. Unless you're a banjo-playing frog, in that case, run! Aw yeah, guess who just got a hold of some of Disney's premium trash? I can't wait to see what's inside! Huh. If you're a person that exists, there's a good chance you've heard of the Muppets. Created by Jim Henson in 1955, the Muppets are a puppet ensemble of various animals, people, and whatevers. Following the inception on a short-form series called Sam and Friends, over the next 2 decades, the Muppets quickly grew in popularity, reaching its peak when, after many tribulations, they were given their own primetime series ingeniously titled The Muppet Show, which ran for 5 seasons from 1976 to 1981, where Henson, despite having the most popular TV show in the world, decided to end production out of fear that the show would start to become repetitive, because Jim Henson had the most creative integrity of any performer who has ever lived. Due to the overwhelming success of the show, the world was overcome with what would come to be known as Muppet Mania. And boy, would I hate to be the doctor who gave that diagnosis. By the mid-80s, the Muppets were no longer pieces of felt with someone's hand up their ass. Now they were bona fide celebrities with a successful film series, multiple TV specials, and a constant string of guest appearances on the biggest talk shows. But as the 80s marched on, Henson started to grapple with his own mortality. He entered negotiations with the Walt Disney Company to sell his studio, seeing how they were able to keep their characters relevant over 20 years after their creator's death. There was also the advantage of Disney executives handling all the business matters, which would give Henson more time creating, which is all he really wanted to do. Before a final deal could be reached, Jim Henson sadly passed away at the age of 53. The deal for Disney's acquisition of the Muppets didn't move forward, aside from a TV special entitled The Muppets at Walt Disney World, and the ride Jim had developed for the park, which was called Muppet Vision 3D, which was the only remnant of a Muppet-themed land that the Imagineers had planned. The Jim Henson Company continued with a few Muppet movies in the 90s, which, while they are beloved classics now, weren't as successful as the previous installments, with Treasure Island and Muppets from Space failing to make a significant amount at the box office. And from there, the Muppets kind of faded into obscurity. These characters who just over a decade ago were a worldwide sensation were suddenly being used to advertise MasterCard and Pizza Hut, with no new major projects in the works. In 2004, the Disney company finally reached an agreement with Jim Henson's children to purchase both the Muppets and the TV series Bear in the Big Blue House for $75 million. Lisa Henson stated at the time, "We feel if the Muppets are treated with as much care in the long term as Walt Disney's characters are, we will have properly served the legacy." Yeah, that didn't happen. After Disney had finally acquired the Muppets, for a few years they were struggling to figure out what to do with them. They were suddenly in possession of this huge franchise that had quickly been losing relevance for over a decade now, and they had to figure out how to get them back on top again. So, what did they do? A TV movie that no one liked. I'm not going to comment on what I think of Muppets Wizard of Oz because it's been years since I've seen it. But needless to say, this wasn't the movie that would save the reputation of the franchise like Disney might have hoped. Following Oz, there was a holiday special that I have never seen anyone talk about, so I'm not really sure how people feel about this one. But it didn't help Disney's efforts in making the Muppets relevant again. But then, Disney did something right. I know, I couldn't believe it either. In 2009, they started a Muppet YouTube channel in an attempt to help them reach a wider audience again, which was actually incredibly successful, with the most popular video being the Muppets covering the song Bohemian Rhapsody, which to this day has 107 million views. So now that the Muppets had been the most culturally relevant they had been since before Henson's death, it was time to move forward with a brand new movie simply titled The Muppets Marketing really worked overtime on that one. This movie was everything fans of these characters wanted and was a huge success, grossing $165.2 million, thus making it the most profitable Muppet movie to date, which was thanks to a huge marketing campaign by Disney, including a bunch of guest appearances on popular TV shows such as Dancing with the Stars and Saturday Night Live. Critics also adored the movie, saying it revitalized the characters, pleasing old fans as well as winning over just as many new ones. The film received a ton of award nominations, winning 5 of them, including an Oscar for Best Original Song. Just a few months after the film's release, the Muppets were given their own collective star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Both Henson and Kermit received stars in 1991 and 2002 respectively, but this was specifically for their work in feature films. There was a huge ceremony which cemented one thing: Disney had done its job and the Muppets were once more one of the biggest names in entertainment. So, how did they screw it up? Naturally, the logical next step would be a follow-up to the recent movie, which they began working on in early 2012 for release in 2014 under the title The Muppets Again. Unfortunately, they decided instead of using that title, which is the peak of creativity and imagination, they call it Muppets Most Wanted. Inspired heavily by the Great Muppet Caper and older crime movies of the 60s, Muppets Most Wanted was a true return to form for the franchise. After the previous movie was all about reintroducing the characters and getting the world to fall in love with them again, the sequel was all about just classic Muppet mayhem, with an insane story that doesn't take itself too seriously and a non-stop barrage of slapstick and catchy musical numbers. Now, this movie has been rather divisive among fans of the Muppets. But this is my video, so my opinion automatically has more value than theirs. This is my favourite Muppet movie. I think it has the best songs, the best emotional arc for the characters, and I mean, Tina Fey. There was no question this was going to be the best. But how good a movie actually is matters very little in terms of how much money it makes. So, how much money did it make? Could have been better. So what happened? Why wasn't this movie a huge success? And how did it make less than half what the previous movie did? Well, the advertising campaign for this film was much smaller and less aggressive than last time. For starters, the teaser trailer was first shown with the theatrical release of Planes. Not a great sign. There was almost no build-up to this movie's release. They did a partnership with Toyota for a Super Bowl ad and a partnership with Subway, and that was it. No major TV appearances or showing up at red carpet premieres of other movies. Just a restaurant tie-in and some costumes in Club Penguin. That is pathetic. Now, if you'll all allow me to just put on my tinfoil hat for a second, I think I have a theory on what happened with Muppets Most Wanted. The movie premiered in March of 2014, just 5 months after Frozen was released, and by this time had just passed the $1 billion milestone, rapidly becoming Disney's most marketable franchise. So were they too busy slapping Elsa's face on anything and everything to pay attention to the new Muppet movie? I don't know. And that was the end of the Muppets Renaissance, lasting a staggering 2 years and 4 months. Unfortunately, it's all downhill from here, as now that their feature film franchise had gone bust, no one at Disney knew what to do with the Muppets. I mean, they're too big of a property to just let sit there. There's gotta be something new they can try. And that's when they made their biggest mistake yet. An idea so misguided that we are still experiencing the consequences of it to this very day. I'm talking, of course, about Muppet Moments, the Disney Junior short-form series that single-handedly killed the Muppets. Oh, and the ABC sitcom too, I guess. Premiering in 2015, The Muppets was a mockumentary-style sitcom that everyone hated except me. Don't forget to leave your essays on why I'm wrong in the comment section down below. I'll be sure to read all of them as I'm desperate for any semblance of human interaction. When the show initially premiered, it received a huge backlash from fans and critics alike for its overly mean-spirited tone and characterization of the Muppets. This series was aiming towards a much more adult audience, with less slapstick and more relationship drama, as the series series now focuses on the characters' sex lives. Which, I don't know about you, but I could have personally gone my entire existence without knowing any of that. After the show returned from its winter hiatus, it started to greatly improve with much more of the standard Muppet antics and the level of heart you'd expect from this franchise. But despite all the positive changes, the damage had already been done, and with each episode the show's ratings declined more and more, leading to the show getting cancelled after one season and ending on a cliffhanger, which we're going to talk about in just a second. But while the ABC show wasn't helping matters, the real problem wasn't the show itself. It was what they sacrificed in the process. On August 4th, 2015, less than a month before the show premiered, it was announced Kermit and Miss Piggy had broken up. Now, this is nothing new, as the pair announced they had separated in 1990 before shortly getting back together again. But this was not just them getting some magazines to write articles about a breakup between a pig and a frog. This was a shameless marketing ploy to get people to watch the ABC show. And you can tell that's what this is because Kermit and Piggy were the worst thing about the early episodes. But following a creative overhaul with one of the showrunners getting replaced, which led to the series' improvements, Kermit and Miss Piggy slowly started to drift back together, building up to the cliffhanger ending where the two are about to make up shortly after realising they still love each other. And had the show continued, I have no doubt that is where it was going to go. But it didn't continue. The show was cancelled after only one season, and everything surrounding it was erased from all future Muppet productions. Everything except the breakup. It has been almost 6 years since one of the most iconic couples in media were broken up to advertise a poorly conceived, ill-fated show that only lasted 7 months on air. And not only are the two still broken up, they have returned the same constant insults and arguments that killed the ABC show. In 2018, a reboot of the 80s cartoon Muppet Babies premiered, and as of this time is currently on its 3rd season, thus making it the most successful Muppet production since 2011. Which brings us to Disney's latest Muppetational fail, Muppets Now. But first, I want to go back to 2019, when 2 brand new Muppet series were announced to be in the works for Disney+. One was entitled Muppets Live Another Day. The series would serve as a sequel to the 1984 movie Muppets Take Manhattan, and focus on Kermit and the other Muppets searching for Rolf after he mysteriously disappears. A series set in the 80s, taking the Muppets back to their prime with new songs by Bobby Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez, who not only wrote the music for Frozen, but also a Broadway musical called Avenue Q, which was a parody of Sesame Street, so they have plenty of experience writing Muppet-like songs. This show was exactly what the Muppets needed, something new that still stays true to the roots of the franchise. This was going to be amazing. It was shelved. Instead, what we got was a previously announced series of improvised shorts that got hastily cobbled together into 6 half-hour episodes. With pointless wraparound segments the Muppet performers had to film from their homes due to current events. Muppets Now is a variety show with a few rotating segments parodying online content such as vlogs and cooking shows. The story of the show is Scooter rushes to make his deadlines to upload the brand new Muppet series for streaming. Now, before I say what I'm about to say, I would like to preface this by stating, for the record, I liked this series. I found some of the segments really funny. However, Muppets Now is the Muppets trying to recapture the success of their early YouTube videos and coming across as soulless and empty. Sometimes they can be well written, but there is a distinct lack of anything resembling character throughout this show. With the exception of Miss Piggy and Swedish Chef, none of this material feels like it was written for the Muppets. This is a franchise famous for subverting expectations, yet almost every joke in the show is so obvious. The main things missing from Muppets Now are heart and music. It's the worst elements of the ABC show condensed down. Yes, they can be very funny and even technically impressive, but this is not the Muppets. And it's so annoying because they cancelled the ABC show despite how good it had gotten, only to make the same mistakes but worse. I like to think somewhere out there there's an alternate universe where the ABC show was renewed for a 2nd season. Kermit and Miss Piggy got back together, the changes to the writing began to get noticed and the show's audience started to grow. Had the series been stronger out of the gate, I'd argue that it could have still been alive today and would be about to enter its 7th or 8th season. But that's not the world we live in, and we have to face the fact that no one at Disney understands what to do with the Muppets. If a new project fails, they go back in the freezer until the executives are ready to fail again. The main issue I feel is that the people in charge don't know who they should market the Muppets to. Rather than appealing to everyone like Jim Henson, they are intentionally narrowing their audience. The first thing we saw after Muppets Most Wanted was a series of 1-minute shorts targeted at preschoolers, followed by a sitcom with a more mature take on the characters that utterly failed, followed by a new iteration of Muppet Babies on Disney Junior, and finally Muppets Now, which I don't even think it knows who it's supposed to appeal to. What is wrong with letting the Muppets just be the Muppets, rather than having to try and aim for a specific demographic? The Muppets became famous because they had something for everyone. They had dumb puns and explosions, but at the same time, this witty, ingenious writing and these fully fleshed out characters. It's sad looking at all these failed projects that don't seem to understand why these characters were once the stars of the biggest TV show on Earth. You don't need to update the Muppets, they're timeless. And I know you know this, Disney, because you released not one, but 2 movies that proved just that. So Disney's treatment of the Muppets ever since 2014 hasn't been ideal, but I think it's important to realise that it is never too late. Sooner or later, maybe intentionally, maybe by accident, a new Muppet project will release to huge success and critical acclaim. Something that tells the people in charge exactly what they've been doing wrong and where the franchise needs to go. And we know it can happen because it already has once. But after Most Wanted, Disney probably doesn't see a future for the Muppets in theatrical releases. If only there was somewhere Disney could put movies they aren't confident enough to release in theatres while still giving it a chance at success. Oh wait! I think Disney Plus original movies would be perfect for the Muppets. So in the near future, I want to see a brand new Muppet movie exclusive to Disney Plus. Give it this big dumb story, hilarious and catchy musical numbers, and that perfect blend of self-awareness, slapstick, and genuine heart that makes the Muppets so special. While I'm optimistic, the future of these beloved characters still remains unclear. It's astonishing how a franchise as iconic as the Muppets has been failing so much in recent years, whether it be due to behind-the-scenes drama or mismanagement by the people in charge. It's time everyone just pulls together and do what the Muppets do best. Put on one heck of a show. Oh, yeah, that'll work. Thanks so much for watching, folks, and I'll see you real soon.